The only vice presidential debate of this election now just 2 days away. Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris will take the stage in Salt Lake City Wednesday night. And the stakes couldn't be higher, particularly for Pence. He is the first vice president to debate while the president is known to be sick. NBC News political reporter Monica Alba joining me now. Monica, there are more than a dozen positive COVID cases in this White House cluster. What are the campaigns doing to keep Wednesday's VP debate as safe and as COVID-free as possible?
Well, Allison, it is top of mind for both of them. Developments just in the last couple of minutes, we're learning that Senator Kamala Harris's campaign asked that there be a plexiglass divider between her and Vice President Mike Pence on the debate stage in Salt Lake City on Wednesday. That's something we understand the commission has approved. We saw that in one of the senatorial debates in the last couple of days. So that's something it seems they took an idea from that and applied it here on this far bigger national stage. And for their part, the vice president's office spokeswoman Katie Miller said to us, if the senator wants to essentially put, in her words, a fortress around her, quote, have at it. So that gives you a preview of just a little bit of the changes they're already making. And we understand they're also going to be further apart than at a typical debate. They're going to be about 12 feet of distance between the two of them and the moderator as well. So these safety considerations are really significant heading into this debate that you would always pay attention to. Again, as you mentioned, it's the only one of the cycle between the two. But of course, much higher stakes and so many more people watching given the president's current coronavirus diagnosis, Allison.
Monica, let's talk strategy and prep. Senator Harris first. What do you know about how she's getting ready for this debate, what her strategy is for Wednesday night?
She's been doing a lot of traditional debate prep. Of course, she participated in a lot of those debates during the primary season with many more candidates on the stage. But similar to what she was doing earlier in the year, she's in a team of small group of aides. Interestingly enough, we understand that somebody who was playing the role of Vice President Mike Pence has been one of her former rivals and former mayor of South Bend, Pete Buttigieg, who you see in those photos there, has been actually spotted in Salt Lake City, where we know actually that Kamala Harris has been for the last couple of days. So it seems she's been doing even some last-minute practice rounds with him. And we should point out that the vice president just left Washington a short time ago for Salt Lake City. So both candidates are going to be on the ground more than 48 hours in advance to continue their preparations there. But these are two politicians who really do the more typical kind of prep, at least compared to Donald Trump, who basically spurned that kind of preparation and instead did different kind of sessions, as we know now, with several people in close proximity who then all turned out to be positive for coronavirus after those close quarter sessions. We've learned that the current vice president and the Senator Kamala Harris are really preparing with a lot of briefing books. They've been doing actual mock sessions. And something else we learned actually about Vice President Pence is that he was told, instead of just operating with the team that he had 4 years ago, like former Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, who was critical and played Tim Kaine 4 years ago for that debate, the White House actually suggested Pam Bondi step in and play the role of Kamala Harris because of their backgrounds as former attorneys general, and of course to have a woman standing in for a woman, since this would be a more unique and new experience for the vice president to be debating that. So we don't know exactly how she was utilized, but we understand she was involved in some way. Pam Bondi, of course, a close ally of the president's, was involved in the impeachment defense team as well, Allison.
Monica, let's talk about Vice President Pence. He's no stranger to this process, debating Senator Tim Kaine in 2016. What can you tell us about how he's preparing differently in 2020 and how he might handle questions about the pandemic, given the president's positive diagnosis last week?
Absolutely. I think that's going to be a major topic of discussion. And really, we'll have to see how the vice president defends the president, who was consistently downplaying the virus for months, as we've seen. And as even Donald Trump admitted to Bob Woodward during those taped interviews that he did on purpose downplay the virus, he conceded to him. So how will the vice president defend that in light of now the fact that the president has himself contracted the virus? The first lady, of course, also sick with coronavirus. And though we understand they both are doing well, that's what both of their teams have said, so well, in fact, that the president is being released from Walter Reed Hospital today. A lot of questions outstanding here about the timeline. And so while the vice president, who is the head of the coronavirus task force, we all know, was absolutely expecting questions on the health crisis, they take on a whole new meaning now with this diagnosis. And he will have to answer for some of the mixed messaging also, not just from the president, but from his own doctors, I imagine. As for Senator Harris, she and Joe Biden have really made the coronavirus crisis a centerpiece of their campaign. Again, before we knew the president had come down with this, we knew that this was going to be a huge focus of her. That she was going to be basically criticizing the administration, again, pointing out that the vice president, as the head of the task force, bears a lot of the responsibility, Democrats would argue, for where we are in the pandemic. But again, it takes on a whole new realm of importance given just what's happening in the last couple of days. And there were a lot of questions about whether the vice president was really going to go to Utah for this while the president was still hospitalized. Now, obviously, we know since he's leaving Walter Reed, that was a decision that was made. And again, he should be landing there later tonight. But there is an open-ended question of what happens in the next few days with the president's condition, Allison.
Monica, you've also spoken with some of the president's allies. What would they like to see from the vice president on Wednesday night? Are there things they're hoping he'll avoid or handle a certain way?
Well, I think the vice president said it best just now on the tarmac when he was leaving. He said the president gave him the green light to go to Utah. So the number one thing is they want to project this sense of normalcy despite all the chaos that's going on in the last couple of days. They want to also say to the American people that the president, in his own words, doesn't want those suffering to be afraid of coronavirus, even though he's just been in the hospital for it. And they also want to really get back on the campaign trail. I spoke to some of the allies of the president's reelection campaign who said they're most eager to see the vice president get back out there with crowds and continue to make a pitch that the president can't do right now because he can't be traveling. So the vice president is actually going to be heading to Arizona on Thursday, Indiana on Friday, and continue from there. Again, because the main candidate himself is sidelined with coronavirus, the vice president is going to be stepping in and doing a lot more travel. And we should point out here, he's going to continue to do events, some of which I've been to and been at and reported on, which don't always have social distancing, which have inconsistent mask usage at best. So continuing to sort of flout some of these health and safety guidelines that the CDC itself has put out, the Trump administration endorses, the campaign has contradicted at times. They're going to keep doing that. And they're going to have members of the first family also hitting the trail in the next couple of days, Allison, to really do a show of force again while the president himself is sidelined with this virus.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.